Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Work-Life Wellness Series, our first one today.
Yes,
Yeah,
this is exciting.
Big day today, where we're going to explore how you can get an elevated work-life experience. I know I need that.
I think we all do.
I'm Rob Capello, and joined here with Trisha Miltimore. She'll be joining. We're not sure how many we're going to do. We'll do a few of these, and we'll see how it goes. But Trisha is a speaker, a coach, founder of Passion Igniter, a mom of like four, wife,
Just four.
and more. So, but we're going to dive into like just ways that you can create a life where you can do less and live more. I think everybody wants to do that. So, so you're ready to spark some inspiration?
That's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure, but I feel good today, so let's give it a go.
Awesome. So I'm curious, like, where did you get your passion for your work-life wellness? Like, how did this all come together for you? I know we only have like half hour or so, but
Right.
how did it all come together
Cole's
for you?
notes.
Yeah.
Well, I think for me, it's been a journey. I've always done speaking as my profession, even
Right.
from very young. About 17 is when I got into the industry. But having 4 children over those years has taught me a few things.
Yeah.
It's been a challenge.
Yeah.
And through that experience, because of those challenges, and you kind of combine the synergy of the work that I do,
Right.
it became clear to me that this is something I really want to help others with as well. Because there were times that were very, very dark and very, very hard, thinking that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to achieve this,
Yeah.
and then I have my baby crying all
Right,
night
right.
long. Like, there's some really tough parts in there. But from the hardships, we learn lessons, and these are the lessons that I've compiled, and that's part of my professional work now.
Interesting. So how long have you been doing this? You said since 17
Since
years.
17.
But how long when did you start the company? Like
When I was 17.
You did?
Actually, no, probably 18.
Wow, good
Yeah,
for you.
right fresh out of high school. I'm like, this is what I want to do. And
That's
I started.
awesome.
So my company name is Contagious Leadership Training.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Love it. So one of the things you talk about is identifying daily priorities. And I read that and go, way easier said than done for me.
Right.
So how do you recommend someone figure out what's really most important for them? Because sometimes I think I get caught up in like, I'll check email or I'll do this, and then the
Right.
important things don't get done. So how do you usually coach people around that?
Well, when I speak of priorities, it's all around work-life priorities.
Okay.
So as part of my work-life synergy training, we look at what are your top 3 priorities. It's the things, the people, the experiences that matter most to you on a daily basis.
Got it. Okay.
So those would be the priorities. What matters most.
So it doesn't have to be, you're not talking specifically around like work priorities, life priorities. It could be your kids. It could be whatever. Like
Absolutely.
You're saying. So how do you work with, when you're talking with people or working with people, like how do you get down to the bottom of what's important to someone? Because sometimes we let other things get in the way.
Yeah, well, there's so much we have to do every single day.
Yeah. What is there?
So much. And it's really about what do you think about on a daily basis? Like, what if everything was taken away professionally,
Right.
and you had all the time in the world, what would you want to be doing? And so, and it's general themes when I'm talking about work-life priorities. So for me, my priorities are health and family. It actually goes family, health, and then impact from creative expression. So those are the 3 things that truly matter to me, that if any of those are taken away, nothing else really matters. Nothing works, because those are the core important elements of my life. And so for most people, health is in there. For a lot of people, family or friends, relationships is in there as well. And then you can, if you want to make it structured, because some people need structure, then you can throw in your professional kind of impact that you seek to make.
And did you find have those changed for you over the years? Like as you had, because if before you had kids, was it different, or were these 3 consistent for you?
Well, I mean, health.
Yeah, sure.
Sometimes I had more time than
Fair
others.
enough.
But I think they're fairly consistent. Yeah, because they're really about your values.
Right.
Every day when you wake up, what truly matters to you. And health-wise, anyone knows, if your health is taken away from yourself or someone you love, the world stops.
Right.
The world stops, right? So you have to take care of yourself and make that a priority, because obviously, like I said, it's a pillar. And then family can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Fair enough, right.
So for me, of course, it's the kids and partnership. For some people, it's their parents, it's their their friends, So relationships could be that kind of category.
My priority is eating pizza in Italy, so
Yes.
don't know
So
how
travel?
we're going to get there yet, but
Yeah. Or for you, it could be a priority of exploration or novelty.
Right.
Novelty is an important one too.
Interesting. So do you have to stay what do you do on a day-to-day basis to make sure you stay on those priorities? Like, do you subconsciously do it, or do you actually plan your day around those 3 pillars that you had?
It's your micro decisions that are supporting your overall priorities. So micro day habits. So I go to the gym in the morning.
Right.
Yay
Right.
for me.
Yeah.
I got that day checked off for
Yeah,
health, right? But
got
it
it.
also could be mental health. It could be taking some time, some
Right.
ebb and flow, relaxation versus the hustle and the grind kind of thing.
Right.
So it's not like it's not a strategic, I'm sitting
No,
down and
no.
I'm planning, but it's overall my life choices, my daily life choices, my daily life experience is all about fueling the value of these priorities.
I can see how it could guide those decision making for you, right? If you have those 3 pillars and what's
Mhm.
important to you, then it's easier to make decisions. If it doesn't fit into one of those, then maybe you don't need to do it today, or you don't need to do it, which I think is interesting. And like I said, it maybe just becomes part of your day to day after because you're just used to doing it.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
top of
interesting.
mind awareness.
Yeah.
What is that? TOMA?
Yeah.
For anybody who's in marketing.
So one thing I noticed you mentioned is something you called mindset blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I've heard sort of that term. So can you explain a little bit about what it is and how it helps people maybe take control some of their work-life balance?
Yeah, to manage it. So a blueprint for a house,
Yeah.
you need a blueprint to know what you're building, in which
Right,
way, which
right.
dimensions and everything. So it's the same kind of idea. A blueprint is for mindset is how you approach engineering your daily life experience. So you're building your daily life experience. And the reason why I like to focus on the daily life experience, you hear me say that all the time,
Right, yeah.
ad nauseum, is because that's all we really have control over. And I have found the greatest stress in my life is when my expectations are of the grand experience that I don't necessarily have control over what's happening in 3 months.
Right.
I don't have control over the 6-pack.
Yeah.
Never have, never probably will.
I was told it's better to have a cake than a 6-pack.
Yeah, that's important. I like that. Hashtag goals. But the 6-pack that I'm going to have in a year or
Right,
6
right.
months, it's all about like what can I achieve today.
Today,
And
right.
so it takes the pressure off because there's so much pressure. I'm sure many people watching, you're probably a busy, ambitious, multitasking, amazing person that can do so much in a day, right?
Right,
There's so
right.
much we can do,
Right.
but how much do we really need and want to do that's going to fuel that daily life satisfaction?
And is this an actual physical document you have? Like, is that with this mindset blueprint? Do you actually work with clients to develop a physical
Yeah.
document for them? Okay.
Yeah, one-on-one, we develop their own blueprints.
Right.
And in my trainings, I do blueprint mindsets. So,
Got it.
the kind of the idea of the color of glasses you
Got
have
it.
on,
Okay,
the filter, how you see the world. A cliche, but classic one is your glass half full or
Yeah.
half empty? That kind of thing.
We'll talk about that after.
Oh, that's in your notes. Okay. All right.
I love it. So one thing that I think shifting your mindset isn't an easy thing to do.
No.
So,
Oh my gosh.
and people don't like change. People like there's a whole bunch of things we're as humans that we're against.
Mhm.
But what's a small thing like that people can do? Like what's a powerful mindset shift that people can try to improve sort of their outlook? What is there anything that they can do if someone's listening or watching this, or like just something small that they can do to help?
Okay, I like that. So one blueprint that I think has been the biggest change for me, and remember everything I teach is something I've personally experienced,
Right.
is that the idea, well, maybe I can start with a story.
Sure.
Stories are more fun, right?
Once upon a time.
Once upon a time, many years ago, I was speaking at a conference, and once I was done, I went to go get some tea, and a lady walked up next to me, the hotels, your tea making station, and I'm sitting there stirring my tea, and the lady comes up to me, and she starts sharing with me her life experience, and some of the stuff that she had been through, my jaw was just open. Like she had been through tragedy and trauma that I can't even begin to imagine.
Right.
And so I'm sitting there listening to her. It was just unbelievable, and I'm stirring my tea, and then she said, after everything I've been through, Trisha, I've learned that life doesn't have to be so hard. And I remember feeling this internal resistance, like not outwardly, but internally. I was like, what? Life doesn't have to be so hard. Like, do you have to make lunches for, I think it was 3 at the time, 3 kids, nut free? Not that there's anything wrong with allergies or that it shouldn't be nut free, but it's just hard. And my kid really likes baby crackers. Nut free, and do you have to help run 2 businesses? And like I had all this weird internal stuff come up that was resisting that piece of wisdom that was bestowed upon me. And I had to mentally tell myself to shut up. Stop. This woman, she's gone through so much. And so I came away from that. I marinated in that wisdom, and I began to realize that I approach life up to that point, making it harder than it needs to be. I actually went home to my husband that night, and it must be really hard to be married to me. I recognize
I'm gonna
that.
get him on the next live stream.
He'd be like, I'm not saying a word. But I actually went home and I said, Dom, like I was listening to this lady at the conference and she was telling me her life story, and then she told me that life doesn't have to be so hard, and I was like, what? I mean, like how can you say that? And then I realized that maybe, just maybe, I make life harder than it needs to be. And he just looked at me. He's like, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I have no idea what the right answer is. So being raised in a retail environment,
Right.
Entrepreneurial environment, I was raised to think you can achieve whatever you dream.
Sure.
But I was shown that it's going to be hard. And you're going to have to sacrifice, and it's going to be a struggle. And this is the internal dialogue I had, was that, yes, I can, but it's going to be really hard. So as a blueprint, now with a mindset tweak, so it's just a slight shift,
Right.
I approach things like life doesn't have to be so hard. And so the question is, how are you making life harder than it needs to be?
I'm sure we all do that.
Oh yeah, it's universal.
Yeah.
But when we recognize something that we do that makes life harder than it needs to be, and we make a subtle shift, it really
like a big relief.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. On that, you mentioned the glass half full idea, and I'm a glass half full guy. I think I have an optimistic view usually.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't, right? So, and I think that saying is like been around forever, but it's so real. Like it makes, to me, it really resonates. So, how do you encourage people though that to start looking at their lives a little bit more with a positive lens? Like because I find that it's people, media go spend half hour on X and you feel really bad about the world and what's happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so how do you start? How do you get people to start just being a little bit more positive side?
It's more about having agency in some ways. So, because it's really easy for positive centered people, like it's a disposition in some ways,
right.
annoyingly to others.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, oh my
you're
gosh.
right. You're like always. You're never mad. I'm
Right.
Like,
Well, I am.
Yeah, that's right.
But
it's inside.
yeah, you're just shoving it down so deep.
Yeah.
But for some people, you're right. They have that natural disposition to see the positive side. But it's all about, in my mind, from working with a lot of different types of people, it's more about agency. So having agency that I have the ability to impact my experience.
Right.
And so I can have a fairly, what's the word? Not negative, but a lot of people are just really question things, right? Sure. And so if you have a sense of agency, and we do that through certain action steps where, an example is, what is one thing that you want? Let's use you as an example.
I've told you already. I want to go to Italy.
Oh yeah, you want to go. So you want to go to Italy, but when would you want to go to Italy?
Like 2 years ago.
Okay, right. So.
Oh no, realistically.
Yeah.
Like a 90-day trip in the next 24 months.
Nice. Okay, so what's one thing that you have to do to get closer to?
Make like a whole bunch of money.
Yes. Okay. Revenue.
But there's one revenue. But I think part of it is just life, like kids, where the stage that the kids are at.
Yeah.
Because we want to do it as a family trip or whatever. So it's other things are sort of holding it back a little bit. But but that one is dollars and cents. It always comes down to it's an excuse. I feel like dollars and cents is usually an excuse because you just spend money elsewhere. But those are probably the two things that are holding back.
So what's one thing you could do right now that would help to amplify that goal? Like, would it be, starting to plan the trip?
Yeah.
Maybe looking.
I was going to say, actually start looking at planning it. Right. No, I'm not a planner.
Yeah.
That's the
like,
downside.
I'm just gonna go.
But I'm not a planner, right? So
Yeah.
I'm like more like, we'll figure it out when we get there. Like that's more of my mind. But yes, planning would 100% help because it would actually make it real rather than just we'd like to go on a 3-month family trip. Like it's easy to say it, but when you make it look like that would be definitely make it a lot more real.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to start planning my Italy trip. Once a week I'll put 1 hour into it or something like that. Right. So it's kind of the classic SMART goal.
Yeah.
So what day of the week would be the best for you? What day of the week do you have a little bit of time you could invest? And I'm not a planner, but just for the sake of this exercise. Sundays? Okay, so for 45 minutes on a Sunday, I want to start planning for my Italy trip. Right?
I'll watch Food Network and Giada on the Food Network.
Whatever it is. So you want, but if we were to take the word want and put in there, I get to, a slightly different feel, right? I get to plan every Sunday for 1 hour my trip to Italy.
Right.
kind of
Yeah,
different kind of energy.
Yeah, no, it's fair.
And if you were to up the ante one more, I know, crazy, but
Yeah.
if you were to say I choose, so I choose on every Sunday, I choose every Sunday for 1 hour to work on my trip to Italy.
Right.
It's a different energy altogether.
Yeah.
It's just a stronger sense of agency.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So if you can I just
Yeah,
ask the
please
question, if
do.
you have something you want, break it down to a very specific, smart, it's overused, but it's so practical goal, and go from want to choose. It's a very different energy.
It's interesting.
Mhm.
You know, on a like in a work setting right now for me, learning AI. It's the big thing in our industry right now.
Yeah.
So that's what I like. That's a big goal for me over the next 3-4 months is really diving in and setting time aside. And I'm doing it now. So I literally have to block time in my schedule because if not, it's easy not to do it. Where I literally block in my schedule that I'm going to spend an hour a day just learning and trying and playing and exploring and teaching clients and whatever. So that but I don't do it for like my personal life, if that makes sense. Like on an Italy trip, we'll go one day.
Yeah.
But the work stuff is like I literally will block it in my calendar to make sure I get it done. And it gets done.
Yeah. You got the habit for that.
Correct.
So it's about
Yeah,
putting it into your personal side.
Did you think there's going to be a counseling session with me?
We haven't got deep yet, but we can. No, sorry.
One of the things I think was interesting is like expectations can set a tone for how people feel. Right?
Yeah.
So how do you suggest people manage or maybe reset their expectations when things get tough, right? Because that's where things sometimes go a little bit sideways. Is there some tidbits on how you work or things you would give, a nugget you can give someone on that?
Expectations are probably one of the biggest topics in work-life synergy or work-life wellness training in my programs because expectations fuel experience. So as an example, think of the dishwasher.
Right.
So in my house, I am the only person who can actually load the dishwasher properly.
Yeah.
Like I'm good. I'm good. Like there's one thing I'm good at, it's loading the
Loading
dishwasher.
the dishwasher.
I get
No one else can do it like that.
Like it's like what's that Tetris game?
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I just wow, every little nook and cranny has something in it. And so I come home and this is a while ago now.
Yeah.
And I'm not proud. But
it happened.
This is what happened.
Yeah.
And I open up the dishwasher and I look at how it's been loaded and I'm viscerally, deeply disturbed. And so I take a picture of the dishwasher, top rack, bottom rack. And I take everything out and I put it on the side, I refill it.
You take another picture? Show the before and after? Good job, Trish.
I sent it to my loving husband. And I was very, because I want to help him be a better person.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure you do.
I said, this is how the dishwasher I think should be loaded.
Oh my gosh.
But in fairness, like it was full when he did it, and it was like a third full when I did it. And so, but the reason why I tell this story,
good job.
yes, thank you, is that my expectation was that he would do it the same way as me.
Right.
Because I'm the best. But the reality is, everyone does things differently.
Yeah.
And so I had to kind of learn my own content.
Yeah.
And practice it. And really let that go because it was a source of frustration.
Sure.
And it's a silly example, but I think it's a profound example that every day we have little aggressions in our life, that the resistance that we feel because our expectations are not met. Most often not met with people.
Right.
I mean, that could be a therapy session.
Yeah, there you go.
And other times it's not met with our goals or what we thought we were going to do or what we promised ourselves. So expectations drive experience. So if you can adjust your expectations, you can have a different experience. So I no longer feel this expectation that he's going to load the dishwasher the same as me. And I mentally say to myself, I'm just happy the dishwasher's loaded.
Yeah.
Turn that baby on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And move on.
Mm-hmm. It's taken a lot of practice.
I was going to say, I think that just takes time to get there too, right? Because it's like, I'm sure there's lots of those examples that people can think in there. As you're talking, you're like, oh yeah, I'm like that with that, or I'm like that, where you just got to let go sometimes. It's easier said than done sometimes. So, right?
It does take practice. It still bothers me.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
But I can move past it because think about all the places where we're draining our energy because we are focusing on the expectation that is unrealistic,
right,
or unfulfilled, or whatever the case may be. So, do you want to be a person that's driving your day, or is it going to be an experience of being drained?
Yeah,
I choose to be driven.
Interesting. What you should have done is you should have run a class at home on how to load a dishwasher
for the whole family.
Yeah, for the whole family. It's fun. You have training videos and
That could be a whole like work-life wellness
there you
session.
go, yeah. One of the things I think that I love what you do on LinkedIn that I see is that you post pictures with your family. You go and do like coffee with your daughter and stuff, and and I think we were talking about notes beforehand, and you said something about play fuels fulfillment, which I think is a cool, fun idea.
Yeah.
But how do busy professionals, how do they bring more play into their lives? Like, how is a way that everyone's busy and everyone's got stuff, but how do you bring some of that back into your life?
Play fuels fulfillment. Yes, play in the gaps is my number one tip for that. And I teach this all the time because we really don't play enough. You're right. We just don't. And especially myself. I'm the person in the family that's like, we need to get this done. We need to clean this up. We need to organize or schedule.
Need to reload the dishwasher.
Yeah. So play is important. Play in the gap. So if you have a moment in time, let's say 15 minutes in between two meetings, do something that's just for you. That just tickles your spirit in some way, right? Or as parents, often you'll probably find you've got a half an hour in between one kid's activities to another. So you know what I'll do sometimes? I'm going to jump on Netflix in the car.
Right.
I'm going to watch Bridgerton for 22 minutes before I have to pick up the next one. Yeah. And for those who don't have kids, there's tons of examples in our lives where we have little gaps. And so you can do things that may not feel productive, but they still kind of inspire your spirit. Yeah. So another example that I'm going through right now is as I'm working on my book, we get to play with. And you gave me this idea, actually.
Oh, great. Good job, Rob.
I think it was you.
Sure.
Yeah,
I'm
good job, Rob.
totally going to take credit for it.
Where you talk to ChatGPT about your ideas.
Yeah.
So, and I just get excited because I'm working towards something, but it's not about being productive. It's about playing. Another example. It was on the Bridgerton note, if anyone knows who actually produced that, it's Shonda Rhimes. Okay. And she has a book called The Year of Yes. And so I don't know why he's a theme of this particular session or episode, but my husband, he got an idea one year that I like self-help books. So now every single year for Christmas,
you get one.
I get a self-help book. And I'm pretty sure he just kind of picks them. This one year he picked Shonda Rhimes' Year of Yes. Highly recommend it. It's memoir style, but her general philosophy was to say yes to more things. Interesting. Yeah. So for a whole year, I decided I'm going to say yes to things.
If you look back and go, you said yes to stuff, you're like, wow, I should not have said yes to that.
Yes, the giant ninja-style play bouncy castle thing.
Got it, yeah. Shouldn't have said yes to
that. Mom, join us. And normally I'd be like, oh, no. But this was my year of yes.
That's right. So you're like, I'm going to do it.
Took off my shoes and, work out. Yeah. Do strength training. Yeah. I got this. I did not have it. I did not. I jumped in thinking I would jump in and like ninja style my way through. But I just jumped in and I fell into the pit of the balloon, of that giant balloon thing. What's it called? Ninja, like a outdoor.
Is there any footage of this? Or?
No. But I did make it to the end. I basically tumbled out and I thought I'd almost died. Like I thought I was going to suffocate. I'm like, I'm too big for this. I'm too heavy.
I'm done.
But I did it.
Well, speaking of bouncy, that's interesting because that leads to my next question.
Good transition.
You talk about bouncing instead of balancing.
Yes.
So can you explain what that means and how it helps people manage their energy better?
And I think that's a great verbiage to use is energy management. And the idea of balance is archaic. It's outdated. It's like a framework, a thought framework that was meant to pull people back, in my opinion.
Right. Okay.
So you can't balance. Balance is like you have to constantly take from one side for the other side. Right. This is exhausting. So the idea is to balance. So, and this is a mindset blueprint, another example. Okay. So it's how you approach your everyday living experience, right? How you choose your actions and your energy. And so the idea of balancing is just that you want to act like you're just a tennis ball. You're bouncy. You're not a medicine ball that just flops in the ground. So as you're going through your day, it's very easy to, especially if you're doing some things that you're resistant to, like, oh, now I got to go pick up this, or I got to go do this, or I got this meeting with this person. I don't like that person. They do nothing but complain. And you get resistance. Where bouncing is a subtle shift where like, oh, now I'm going to go to this meeting. Right. Oh, now I'm going to go and pick up these
whatever
things.
It may be.
Yeah. And a good example where I often use this is in the airport. You got to bounce at an airport. Because one minute you're on the plane, next minute you're maybe not on the plane, and then there's no room for luggage. So it's just how you approach things. And I always talk in my line of work, in my programs, it's not about like massive transformational change.
Right. The little things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the littlest things that impact your daily life experience.
Well, that's great. Last question I have
Yeah.
is someone only has time to start with one thing. So you're saying little things.
Yeah.
What would you suggest they focus on when it comes to their work-life wellness? What's one thing?
Drink more water.
Okay.
Start.
Okay.
I know it sounds silly, but it's actually, I have a set of tools and work-life synergy, and water is the first one.
Oh, interesting.
Because if you actually drink the water you need every day, you are going to feel better about yourself.
Huh.
It's the simplest thing. We're all so we're so dehydrated.
Yeah.
Okay, but that aside, but the next piece is always related to agency.
Okay.
So we talked about what is the one thing you want.
Yeah.
So choose that one little thing you want, that one simple thing you can do every day that's going to make you feel empowered, that's going to be good for you. It could be the water, or it could be doing writing, or it could be going for a walk. One little thing that's doable, do it for 7 days.
Interesting. Love it. One thing actually I'm going to bring up, I said it was the last question. But
Yeah.
And I believe, I don't know if it was a LinkedIn post or then where you went on a walk, but you forgot your AirPods or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
So you had to like listen, and I'm like, that's like, I never even thought of that, because everywhere we go, you're always putting stuff in your ear, you listen, where you just kind of like, you're just with yourself. It was just you.
It was
walking.
horrifying. It wasn't horrifying. Yes.
I thought that was interesting.
It was interesting also because I heard things that I haven't heard in years.
Right.
Yeah, like we have a creek by our house,
Right.
and as I walked closer to the creek, it got louder.
Yeah, you're like, oh my gosh.
What is this?
What is this?
It was like a orchestra in my
Yeah,
mind, but taking the moment to disconnect.
Yeah.
That also sounds very cliche. Disconnect, be with yourself. Well, this is more not only about being with my own thoughts, and I only did it because I think they were dead or I couldn't find them or something. But I do it regularly now, and just listen, especially with nature. That's very grounding, and listening to what's happening around you, feeling that wind. Another great example is to look at the trees and see the wind in the trees and listen to it. I swear they talk to us.
They're
On that
alive.
note.
They're alive.
Yeah.
That's a different podcast.
Yeah.
Thanks, Trisha. I think that was fun. There was lots of really good little tips. I think you left a lot of good nuggets for people to like how they can get a work-life wellness. And I love even the term work-life wellness rather than work-life balance, because we don't balance, we're balance. I love that. So, and I would say to everyone that's listening, if there's little things you can take out of here, it's great. Or maybe everyone wants to create a blueprint, a mindset blueprint, because I thought it was kind of a neat thing as well. So anything you want to leave everybody before we sign off and say bye to the audience?
I think the last final thought I'll leave with is to not take everything with so much pressure, and to remember that there's always tomorrow. Your inbox doesn't have to be empty. I know for some people it does, but it's a mental thing.
Mine never.
Yeah, mine never. And just there doesn't have to be one right way of doing things or one wrong way. It's just a matter. It's the journey. So do one thing that you want, do it with intention, enjoy it, and then elevate your life experience. That's what it's all about.
Love it. Stay tuned for more episodes where we continue to sort of elevate our work-life journeys. And until next time, take care and live well. Thank you.
Thanks.